Welcome back to New World Next Week. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com.
And I'm James Evan Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com. They want to create a corporation-backed, corporation-friendly committee to replace the one that was just disbanded. We have that story, plus more GMOs means more pesticides. But first, it wasn't us. It was the algorithm that told us to nuke places. All credit to my man Clyde Lewis for talking about this story on Ground Zero on Monday night. IAEA and Palantir colluded with Israel to manufacture war with Iran. Since 2015, the IAEA, who was looking for all those weapons of mass destruction back in the Bush days, has used Palantir's Mosaic platform designed for military ops to monitor Iran's nuclear program under the JCPOA, the worst deal ever, Trump says, the joint cooperation nuke, the Iran nuke deal. Mosaic processed over 400 million data objects, including satellite and social media, enabling 60-plus surprise inspections. But during an AMA, Palantir's founder, Peter Thiel, recently being confronted by our buddy Dan Dix, was asked, is Palantir a front for the CIA? And what did Peter Thiel say? No, the CIA's a front for Palantir. Most likely referencing their CIA funding and founding. Even as recently as last week, Thiel fielded a question about Palantir's use in Gaza, to which he said, I'm not on top of all the details of what's going on in Israel because my bias is to defer to Israel. Why are these people responsible for the software of international institutions? On June 12, 2025, Iran leaked documents allegedly showing IAEA chief Rafael Grossi coordinating directly with Israel. Iran says the IAEA became a conduit for Israeli intelligence, echoing earlier claims from 2018 when Mossad raids uncovered internal IAEA files. The June 2025 IAEA resolution, the first in 20 years, citing 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. Days later, Israel bombed Natanz, Fordow, and Esfahan. Iran accused the IAEA of providing cover for the strikes. Meanwhile, Palantir's CEO held a 2024 board meeting in Tel Aviv in solidarity with Israel. And in Thiel's circle, which pushed for Trump's 2018 JCPOA withdrawal, now stands at the center of a surveillance network blurring the line between arms control and regime change. Iran has now limited the IAEA monitoring. Critics, including Russia's Yermakov and analyst Ali Yavez, warned that Palantir's data could produce false positives from dirty inputs like Israel's 2018 file dump, triggering inspections or war based on politicized intelligence. And you get to the bottom of this piece that we are linking up from debatepolitics.com, and you see, oh no, it's from Pravda. So do we throw all of this out because we see that it comes from the Russian state mouthpiece? In related bits, key nuclear allegation that started Iran-Israeli war was coaxed from Palantir counterintelligence algorithm. Now, much like Clyde was saying on Monday night, we're not saying this is war games where Whopper takes over and Seattle got nuked all by itself. But it's not real far off either, James. Would you like to play a game?
I would not like to play that game, James. I don't know about you. I think most people with their heads screwed on straight wouldn't like to play that game, but we are, at the very least, stepping into the world where such a game is a real possibility. And here is one crumb on that cookie crumb trail. And yes, thank you for bringing up the sourcing, because, you know, this is important. I am a researcher myself. I like to know where information is coming from. So yes, we're linking to this Debate Politics forum, which is sourcing to this Pravda USA post, which itself is is linking to a DD Geopolitics tweet. That's what this actually sources from. And we're also linking to Conflicts Forum Substack, which has this Alistair Crook post. But for the key part about the Palantir connection, he is also sourcing DD Geopolitics. So I did look this up, because I'd never heard of DD Geopolitics before this. And on their front page, they got the rise of multipolarity is inevitable, and they have this glowing quote from Xi Jinping: the future world order should reflect the common aspirations of humanity for peace, development, equity, justice, democracy, and freedom. Thank you, Xi Jinping, for shining the light of wisdom on all of us. So I don't know who this DD Geopolitics is. They don't, at least I can't see where they're getting their funding or what have you. Anyway, that seems to be the source that this is all sourcing from. But the question, as always, is it true or not? Not where it comes from, but is it true? Can we identify whether this information is true? So I did do a little bit of digging. I haven't gone deep dive onto this yet, but I have done some digging, at the very least to confirm that, yes, Palantir is working with the IAEA and is supplying their software for use in the IAEA's Mosaic program. And I did find this from Bloomberg from 2018. Peter Thiel and Palantir are at the heart of the Iran nuclear deal. And they talk about the relationship between Palantir and the IAEA and how they are providing their, AI, whatever, algorithmic big data analysis software for the IAEA to come up with its assessments. So anyway, that's the question of the sourcing. At the very least, we can identify, yes, Palantir is involved in this. And yes, the question, and it is the question that I raised in my recent Trump Bombs Iran podcast, where I was going into all of the latest developments. The question is, why now? What specifically changed? What happened to go from, yes, they're developing or they're thinking about developing some sort of program in the future, to suddenly, no, we must strike now. Well, obviously, Israel would take any excuse that they can get, but the explicit excuse that appeared on the table was this IAEA updated assessment, which led to the IAEA actually censuring Iran over non-cooperation or whatever phrase they used. And where did this report come from? Well, it seems, at least to some extent, it has been informed by Palantir data. So, yes, there is an answer which should be very concerning to all of us who are concerned, as you say, at least about the specter of Whopper and the war games of the future and the ability of some AI-enabled assessment to send the world plunging into World War III. Don't worry, guys. Relax. It was a 12-day war, and it's all over. Done and dusted. Everybody's happy now. Yay. We can all breathe a sigh of relief, right? We'll never hear any further repercussions from what just happened over the past 12 days. Yeah, sure. But even if that is true, no, the future that this is pointing to with this AI-enabled assessment is concerning. So anyway, I will throw in the link to that Bloomberg report to just flesh out that connection. We do know that Thiel and Palantir are involved in supplying the IAEA with Iran nuclear information. I will also throw in my recent report on what does Palantir actually do? Because thankfully, in the past few months, most people are finally hearing about Palantir and actually starting to go, hey, maybe this is something we should know something about. Still, a lot of people don't know what Palantir actually does, so I just wrote an editorial about that. I hope people will check it out.
Yes, the only winning move is not to play. And really, man, you got me thinking about Hans Blix and IAEA and the Bush WMD era, making me feel a little old. I also recall in Oliver Stone's JFK film, they've got Jim Garrison basically saying, I don't know why somebody would think that someone's eyes would be bad or that they're untrustable just because they're a prostitute or what type of work they might do. That is how we get going on New World Next Week, episode 595. Our second story, GM crop fuel rise in pesticide use despite early promises. They all said, less pesticides, more great food. Grabbing this from the good folks at gmwatch.org, GM crops have increased agriculture's dependence on pesticides rather than reducing it, a study published in April of this year, 2025, found. Drawing on data from 4 GM crops, BT cotton, which we all know and hate, herbicide-tolerant soybean, HT soybean, HT and/or BT maize, you call it corn, and HT canola. The researchers, including ag development expert Professor Glenn Davis Stone from Washington and Lee University and BT cotton expert Kranthi of the International Cotton Advisory Committee, traced the surge in chemical use over 3 decades. They found a paradox. While GM seeds were supposed to reduce pesticide use, their introduction caused pesticide use to soar. The researchers explain this outcome using the Jevons paradox, Jevons, an economic theory that dates back to 1865. British economist William Stanley Jevons argued that efficiency in resource use often leads to more, not less, consumption. This study applies this idea to GM crops, which were claimed to reduce pesticide use, but in reality have made it skyrocket. The researchers consider the two most prevalent GM seed pesticide technology regimes. I believe that's our second story in a row using the term regimes. BT crops and herbicide-tolerant HT crops. Both seeds are billed as efficient technologies. HT crops claim to facilitate more efficient weed control, and BT claim to control insect pests more efficiently. Tell that to all those Indian farmers. However, the researchers found that, like other technological efficiencies, the increased use of GM crops over the past 30 years has not contributed to input reductions nor to land reclamations, but to the expansion of agricultural land and increased use of the very pesticides these technologies are purported to curtail. Almost everything they sell us on later turns out to be a lie. James, on a stupid level, this one pops up to me a lot. All the awesome online streaming platforms that destroyed over-the-air TV now make you pay for advertisements so you can watch those while you're paying for your stream that's better than TV. In related news, international study reveals glyphosate weed killers cause multiple types of cancer and bitter harvest. 30 years of broken GMO promises. James.
Unfortunately, James, nothing new here. In fact, I've been reporting on various aspects of this for many years in my GMO reporting. It is on the record. People can go look it up, because this is not the first study to make these findings, and this is not the first time we've heard about this. Glyphosate use, of course, has skyrocketed in combination with GMO foods. But now, of course, other pesticides also skyrocketing. And here we have a study to prove it. One wonders if this would be enough for, say, ChatGPT to label it a definitive study. If people don't know what I'm referring to there, they should check out my recent podcast on We Need to Talk About AI and some of the interesting feedback I received the last time we were here on New World Next Week talking about glyphosate use and its detrimental effects on human health, and the conversation that someone had with ChatGPT about whether or not that's real. Guys, you should ask your favorite AI chatbot about whether or not this is a definitive study. No, of course, I don't think that. But yes, it is, of course, one of the subjects that I do cover in Reportage. There is an essay about biotech billionaires and GMO doomsday where I talk about GM crops and the many problems with them. These are just some more examples, more studies showing the detrimental effects of glyphosate. No surprise there. It's just a question of the enormous lengths that the biotech industry has gone to sweep this under the rug and to get people to believe that this GM food really is. Don't worry, guys, this is going to change the world. We couldn't possibly feed the world without GM technology. It is a lie, and it is being demonstrated by study after study after study after study. Here's just a few more examples. The links will be in the show notes, so I hope people will follow them back to the source.
As we have covered this large story, now for the 15 years of doing New World Next Week together, James, chemical, poison, pesticide corporations run our food production. That right there should probably give you a little bit of pause. And as we've noted, as I often note on my show, now especially in the post-scamdemic world, oh man, me and my buddies Ryan and Joey, we were always having heart attacks and stuff as little kids. It's just a natural part of growing up. They would like you to believe now. Since the 1990s, and this is huge thanks to Epstein-connected President Clinton, that's when, and again, he didn't do it, but all the things passed under the rubric of the great Democrat 90s years. That's when all the food turned into GMOs, and that's when all the kids started to get a lot more vaccines before school than James, you and I ever got in the late 70s. So the question then, as we lead into our final segment on this New World Next Week episode, if GMOs didn't feed the world and now causes the more use of pesticides, what will today's promises of vaccine safety bring in another 30 years? Oh, it's okay. Just wait another 30 years and they'll totally let you know about what was in all those weird shots you got in a parking lot because they bribed you with a donut. Washington Post reports on plan to vaccinate all Americans despite RFK Jr. That's the Washington Post headline. Grabbing this from the hated children'shealthdefense.org, vaccine makers, pharmacists, professional medical societies, and others opposed to recent changes in vaccine policy are banding together to create their own system for recommending and purchasing vaccines in a move designed to bypass government health agencies' recommendations, the Washington Post reported. Now you try and do this with your friends in your scene and bypass all the rules that your God-given government gave you. Members of the new group, all of whom profit from the vaccine industry, along with some state health officials and a new advocacy group, are strategizing ways to preserve the vaccine status quo under the new Health and Human Services Secretary, RFKJ. The anonymous group, which hopes to create a non-governmental vaccine system, kind of like their private military contractors that stacked and tortured all those people. That wasn't our boys and girls. That was one of our contractors. A non-governmental vaccine system for vaccine recommendations and purchasing, according to the Washington Post, engaged in a series of discussions. Topics include ordering vaccines directly from manufacturers and prioritizing recommendations from medical associations rather than from the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, ACIP, which makes vaccine recommendations for the folks at the Center for Disease Creation. The move comes as Kennedy, and this happened in the last several weeks, fired all the people on ACIP's sitting committee board and basically have been replacing them with the bad people. He filled 8 of the 17 committee seats a few days later. Commenting on industry insiders' efforts to create the new commission, research scientist James Lyons-Weiler, PhD, told The Defender they want to create and lend authority to a corporation-backed, corporation-friendly committee to replace the one that was just disbanded. These moves would represent replacing the facade of regulating vaccines by a government agency with overt industry self-governance and regulation. The Washington Post, owned by the soon-to-be remarried supervillain Jeff Bezos, called the move by the unspecified group of actors extraordinary, but conceded that it faces major challenges. We will link you right to the original article. We have it archived, so we're not giving the Washington Post any clicks. The plan to vaccinate all Americans, despite RFK Jr. And another one from CHD. What happened to the 100 years worth of vaccine injury reports? That sounds like a whole other episode's worth of a question. And of course, Farmer Billy, Gates Foundation to commit $1.6 billion with a B for the Gavi Vaccine Alliance. James, the humanity.
Oh, the humanity. Well, okay, James, you people out there might think that I'm going to lambaste this idea for this new committee, but you know what? I say awesome. I say yes. I'm going to yes and this because this is a great idea. There should not be one label and one board with one certification. Yes, this vaccine, everyone must get it, or this vaccine, whatever. No, there should be many different labels. Absolutely, including this one from this new corporation-backed committee, whatever they end up calling itself and whatever label they put. May I put the suggestion out there? This should be the Committee for the Rehabilitation of Awesome Pharmaceuticals. Crap. And they should put their crap label on, this wonderful COVID vaccine that they're pimping so that people can see, oh, crap endorses this. I don't want to go anywhere near that. That's like a warning label to me. No, I do not want the crap endorsed crap. And there should be another body, that the MAHA group that, puts their own label on things and says, don't worry, this is MAHA approved. And independent journalists and others can examine that and say, well, actually, if you look at the actual test studies of this, you'll find that it's not so good for you. And there could be 100 different labels, and you could choose because you are an informed, capable human being, capable of reasoning for yourself. And you could go, I like this group. I think I trust these guys. Or you could even just trust yourself and be like, you know what? I don't want any of this, or I want this. I don't want that. You can pick and choose because you are a capable, sovereign human being. And that is the way forward. So actually, it is a good thing if we have not just one other body or one other, but many, many, many other bodies, many other groups, all vying for your attention. I think I recommend this. I don't recommend that. And you can choose for yourselves. That's a great idea. So I am glad, if nothing else, if MAHA accomplishes absolutely not one other thing, just the destruction of people's blind faith in these government committees will be worth it, because that is a good thing, and people should not have blind faith in any committee or any label by anybody. So yes, multiply the number of committees and multiply the number of labels and let people decide. I think that's a great idea.
More voices, always a good idea, whether you're talking about alternative media or your health choices. The whole one-size-fits-all, I think, was one of the thousands of problems within the scamdemic. Oh, no, everybody get it. Just as much as a baby to an old lady to Jenna, everybody, one-size-fits-all. While they also tell you everyone's different and celebrate the 27 different genders. Not, again, their things don't make sense when you put them all together. No one's taking your vaccines, RFK was noted as saying, and as we have noted, we would give those folks the freedom to take and get whatever poison they want if they would grant us the same freedom to not take part maybe in those poisons. In other news, RFK wants every American to be wearing wearables within the next 4 years. They told me this one. I saw this one in my chat the other day. Someone just said, RFK said he sees people all wearing wearables within 4 years. I was like, maybe he was just speaking about his nightmare vision of what he sees in the future, but that notion is gone. He says it. He wants people to be wearing wearables. I mean, here's something my Alexa friend could get behind, tracking, Fitbit devices. So there's another, one step forward, 2 steps back with the statist agenda. Shocker, I know. Is that it? Good grief. That's a lot, James. NewWorldNextWeek.com is our source for Corbett Report and Media Monarchy gear, hats. Their Corbett Report stickers are back in stock. I also have, as I mentioned last week, 5 different 24-hour music compilations on NewWorldNextWeek.com. If you like electronic music, if you like country music, 24 hours, non-commercial, non-stop, with, of course, your host, James Evan Pilato. Also, exclusive audio of these New World Next Week episodes always get their premiere after my Thursday morning show at MediaMonarchy.com/listen. That's around 10 a.m. Mountain Time here in New Mexico. And yes, a Midsummer Night's stream, James, was, I think, a pretty big success. I'm very stoked with the way it all worked out. Didn't have any technical difficulties. X streamed the entire thing. The whole 12-plus hour marathon DJ set is actually still up on my Twitter X account. That is where I kind of have the most followers of any other social media. It's also on my BitChute account, and how awesome was it to be streaming on BitChute and, have the CEO show up and be like, hey, James, good to see you streaming here. Good to see you, Ray Vahi, creator of BitChute. But really, the crowd went wild, James, when I played the one Smashing Pumpkins 45 that I have. Everyone was like, Corbett should be here. But I got the tape for you.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, James, we managed to avoid the New World Next Week sigh this week, but I think that RFK Jr. Story at the end, the wearables story, deserves a New World Next Week head slap, so we might have to add that to the repertoire.
And again, I think we don't have any illusions about what was coming. We've talked about on this show, and I talked about at least on my own show, we know what's coming with Trump, too. He is going to kiss Zionist butt. Also, it's going to be the technocracy on super steroids when you got Elon and all these other people coming in. So we've been pretty correct on those 2 points. It's the third point of hopefully you will have more freedom yourself to make changes in your life physically, emotionally, financially, and otherwise. James, exactly. I will lastly note we will take off next week as it is the big 4th of July holiday here in the States, sort of the real official kickoff of summer. But it's also, of course, the big Glastonbury Festival this weekend. Then they're going to do that big Black Sabbath finale, and then they're going to do the Oasis reunion, which I guess I'm hoping to stream some of those, James.
Cool. Well, there's a lot happening musically that people can stay in touch with in Media Monarchy. And yes, thank you for underlining, it's not about them, it's about you and what's going on between your ears. That's the point. So, looking forward to doing it again in 2 weeks' time. James, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, buddy. Take care.